Okay, and now we are into part 2 of the presentation on, what's the date? February the 5th, 2014. Okay, so some question coming in. Where does the question come from? Do we choose or are we assigned? I'm going to talk about that. You're going to choose it. Dakota says, I thought my house was on fire. Relief, it was just your beeper. It sounded like a smoke alarm. That was good. I like that. Sorry to scare you. No, your house is not on fire. Do not run outside. Okay, so let's bring back the view with the agenda and me. Okay, so up here we have the literature review. In fact, I'm going to go to just the literature review, get myself off the camera here. All right, now on this literature review, you are determined, turned that, didn't I? You determine the open-ended question that you want to research. You determine it. I want it to be something, get my hand out of there, something that you're interested in. Are you interested in divorce? Are you interested about the use of drugs? Are you interested about sexuality? Are you interested about depression? What are you interested in finding out and how it affects adolescence in a variety of ways? So you're going to determine that. And it says, well, that's what it says in the second one. What do you want to know more about in the area of adolescent development or educational psychology? You, the candidate, as it says here, finds published articles which provide some answers to your question or questions. And I put questions there because sometimes the question that you're asking just lends itself to be 2 questions instead of 1, or maybe 3, but they're all related to this topic. So it can be a question or questions, but it has to be focused on the same topic. Then it says, the candidate presents to and teaches other candidates about the questions and the answers to the questions. So again, it's a good chance for you to share. Think about this. I just love this part. We are all going to hear 30 different people talk about what research is saying are answers to these important questions with adolescents. And I think that's terrific. No opinions in a literature review. I always tell people, I don't care what you think. I know it sounds rude, perhaps, but that's not the point of a literature review. The point of a literature review is to find published authors and tell me what they have said. When you get published, then you can be in a literature review, or if someone asks for an opinion paper. But this is not an opinion paper. This is find the information and get it into a form that can be shared with other people. I'm going to talk about the format later at another time, but I am going to talk about when the assignment's due. All right, so you need, and if you look on the schedule of classes, the legal landscape sheet, you'll find that there is an assignment due where you send to me the question that you want to review. And it says here, right here, send a Gmail to instructor with the subject, here's the subject, lit review question. And in the body of the email, list the question or questions you want to use for the literature review. That's all I want to know. Now, they need to start with an open-ended deal. How, why, what, so on and so forth. When, open-ended questions about a topic. You can use the table of contents from the Ed Psych book. I'll mail out the table of contents from the adolescent material for you to also look at. Anything that you're interested in those 2 topics, adolescent development or educational psychology, is what we're looking for. It says here it's due Friday in 2 days. Not your literature review. The only thing due is your question. I just want to read your question. I want to see it. I may help you revise it a little bit, and I may say, ooh, that's too broad. You can't do that in 5, 6, 7 or sources. That'd take 50 sources. Or that's too specific. There's one answer to that. That's not open-ended. That's why I want to see your questions. So everybody needs to email their lit review question to me, and don't reply on another email. Send an email and the subject says lit review question and your question in the body. I will get a reply back to you saying, hey, this is okay, or I want it revised this way. All right, so that takes care of the red work here. So the first thing is getting your question determined. Let's see, let me check and see if there are questions. From Patrick, could we formulate a couple of questions and determine which one would be best or which one would have the most information? Yes, certainly you can. But let me know that you're really considering it as two separate areas. I probably could tell by the topics that you're using. But for instance, if you had a question, what are the emotional effects of divorce on an adolescent learner? But you think, really, I want to know also what's the effects going on in here in the frontal lobe. You could have a second question, what are the cognitive effects of a divorce on an adolescent learner? And those could be paired together. So if it's two separate questions, you want my opinion, yeah, send those to me, and I'll do everything I can to give you some good advice. All right, now, that takes care of getting the question and getting it to me by Friday at 5 o'clock. Now, I'm going to ask you to write your paper, which is generally 5, 6, or 7 pages. And one page is the title page, and the last page is the reference page. And so in the middle, you probably have 3, 4, or 5 pages double spaced. That's typical. 3, 4, or 5 pages double spaced. Let me switch one more camera here. I'm asking you to write APA, American Psychiatric Association, writing. That's the writing of our profession. Social scientists, and an educator is a social scientist, writes with APA, not MLA. It's complicated. It's a little tricky. It can be learned. I'm asking you to write a literature review in APA. Is that going to make you a successful teacher? No. Will it help you understand that question? Yes. So why am I asking you to use a really complicated writing style and a very specific type of writing now? Because it is complicated. Because it does have details. And my experience, what's going on in education today, and what we expect of teachers as they come out of college and get hired is that they can take care of the details. They can take complicated issues, carefully study the directions, implement those directions as called for, whether it's statewide testing, whether it's something that a school district is doing, whether you're assessing students. Teaching is complicated. Teaching has a lot of details. And I want to know, can you handle the burden? I believe that you can. A 5-page paper with 3 pages of text or 4 pages of text in an APA format, I believe you can do it. Here's my advice. I'm looking straight at you, I hope. I hope that's where the camera is. Don't try and fake your way through it. You can't just write APA and suck it out of the atmosphere. You have to study, and I want to see if you can get the details. Can you design an APA title page? Can you design an APA reference page with your 5 sources on it and know that that page is not called a bibliography, that it's called references, and it's all double-spaced and in alphabetical order? Just some of the details. I'm going to teach that in class. I'm not going to leave you on your own. I do, however, want you to start looking at that because sometimes the visual really helps. So let's go back to this split image. Right here, in the section of the agenda called Writing the Literature Review, I've given you 2 links. The IUS Writing Help Center, excellent sources on APA, samples, how to do it, what you should do. Probably the most nationally known one, the most famous, is here in Indiana from Purdue University, the Purdue Online Writing Lab. There's the link for that. It also has tons of information on APA writing. I want you to do that. I want you to make sense out of this complicated assignment to show me that you're capable of handling complications, handling details, and working it into a finished project. You're going to have to do that with students. Well, we're going to end part 2, and don't run out of your house, you're not on fire, and I will start part 3, so just stand by a second.